Hi guys, good evening. I am Ilangovan, online axi.com, teaching personal for zoology. So we have started about the lesson in physiology, about the excretory products and their elimination. I have given some of the introduction. As it is a new chapter, I want to recall that one once again. Let us proceed from the beginning of that lesson. Now, what do you mean by excretion? So we have a number of biological processes taking place inside the body. One such biological process is responsible for the removal of nitrogenous waste products, particularly the metabolic nitrogenous waste products, which are harmful to the body. The removal of nitrogenous metabolic waste products, normally which are harmful to the body, like urea, uric acid, anything else, those which contain that is the nitrogen in it. They are highly toxic in nature when they accumulate in the body. So that process of elimination of metabolic nitrogenous waste products which are harmful to the body is called what is known as excretion. So since from the beginning of the lower group of animals up to the higher level of organisms, we have also a hierarchy in the development of excretory organs, from simple to complex, as in the case of classification. Regarding the structural aspects also, we have a hierarchy from lower level to higher level of organization for every system. Likewise, let's compare the excretory system in different organisms, starting from the unicellular animals like amoeba. So in the case of amoeba, there are no specific excretory organs for elimination of nitrogenous waste products. Though they have the contractile vacuole, the contractile vacuole is not concerned with the excretion. So how does excretion take place in the case of such animals? Mainly through the body surface by means of diffusion. So in unicellular animals, the process of excretion is mainly through the body surface by means of diffusion process. But when you are going up to the multicellular organization, we have increased complexity since from the beginning. So there you have excretion is brought about by the main excretory organs named the kidneys. So the kidneys are playing a major role in excreting the waste products. Not only that, but also they are responsible for doing another function, namely osmoregulation. Nothing but the maintenance of water content of the body. Then, what about the nature of the excretory organs in different groups? So as seen in the case of amoeba, unicellular organisms through body surface. In the case of multicellular animals like coelodates and sponges, the invertebrate groups, here also there are no specific excretory organs. As in the case of unicellular organisms, here also the process of excretion is through the body surface by means of diffusion process. Again, but in the case of that is the next group of organization, a slight increase in complexity of the excretory organs. For example, we have protonephridia or flame cells. The protonephridia or flame cells, the specific excretory structures, but these are all the unicellular structures. So they are nothing but unicellular structures but performing the function of excretion in the case of multicellular animals, particularly in the case of platyhelminthes, the flatworms, say an example of liver fluke, the tapeworm or planarians. So they have actually this protonephridia. And also another group of invertebrate which are commonly known as the rotifers, having the nickname of wheel animalcule. Wheel animalcules because they exhibit a rotation movement. And also in case of some lower group of annelids. So these are all the invertebrate groups where you have mainly this protonephridia, the flame cells. In addition, in the case of prochordates, one cephalocordate by name Amphioxus. It is a chordate, a prochordate, that too a cephalocordate, having the protonephridia in the form of flame cells for excretion. That is about the nature of excretory organs in the next group. Now let's see something about other excretory organs in different groups of animals. And as we studied in the case of general characteristics of annelids, we have paranephridia, the organs of excretion found in the case of earthworms and other annelids. Nephridia are the organs of excretion. They are nothing but paired structures almost present in all the segments excepting the first and the last and also in the clitellar segments somehow. So these are all the organs of excretion in the case of earthworms and other annelids. Now in the case of you see that one in cockroaches, or in the case of arthropods, most of the insects and cockroaches, even in the case of spider also we have such a type of excretory organ, namely the Malpighian tubules. So the Malpighian tubules, actually tubular structures found in groups, actually connected to the digestive system. They never open outside, collecting the waste products from the what is called the open space containing the hemolymph, the colorless blood, and putting the waste products into the digestive tract. They never open outside, but opening into the digestive tract and then collecting the waste products from the blood and sending them out through only the digestive tract. There are no specific openings for the elimination of waste in the case of cockroaches and also in the case of insects. So the Malpighian tubules are the organs of excretion in insects, in all insects, including the cockroaches, and also in the case of centipedes and millipedes. They too have, that is, the Malpighian tubules. Insects, cockroaches, centipedes, millipedes, they also have the Malpighian tubules. Then, in the case of aquatic arthropods, one group, what we have the class Crustacean. The class Crustacean. It is one such group. Normally we have another category of phylum Arthropoda. There you have specific excretory organs are found at the base of the antenna. That is what they are called antennary glands. Antennary glands. Not only that, they are green in color, hence the name is given green glands. So based on the location they are called antennary glands, and based on the nature of the color they are called as the green glands. Found in the case of crustaceans like crab, prawn, the lobsters. So all these things they have the main excretory organs in the form of antennary glands or green glands. So we can see, for example, diverse in excretory structures, particularly in the case of group Arthropoda. So in the case of Arthropoda, we have a number of organisms. Not all have the same type of excretory organs. There is diversity. So the excretory organs in arthropods normally are of diverse in age. Now one more example for that one. We have coxal glands. Now if you are taking the leg of insect or even the spider, basically they are formed of 5 segments. The basal segment is called coxa. Then we have just a femur, trochanter, tibia and tarsus. So coxa, actually the arrangement is like this: coxa, trochanter, femur, tibia and tarsus. Now the coxa is the basal segment by which the leg is attached to the body. As the gland for excretion is located in the coxal segment of the leg in spider, the glands are called coxal glands. They are present at the coxa, that is namely the basal segment of the leg. So the coxal glands are the excretory organs in the case of spider. Another peculiar character I mentioned earlier. So we have the excretory products, either urea, uric acid or ammonia. In some cases we have creatinine also. So a specific excretory product in the case of spider, what is called guanine. So in spider the waste product is guanine, not urea, not uric acid, not ammonia. Here a specific excretory product in the case of spider, that is guanine. So remember that one, it's a peculiar one, a specific also. Now that is about the different types of excretory organs that are found in different groups of organisms. Now let's proceed towards what are the different types of excretory products. So the 3 major nitrogenous waste products are: 1. Urea, number 2. uric acid, number 3. ammonia. So from the beginning, ammonia, urea, uric acid are the major waste products, the nitrogenous waste products excreted by different groups of organisms. In addition, we have, I mentioned the case of spider guanine, or we too have what is called creatinine in our body. We are excreting creatinine also. So that is a different case. These are all excellent cases, only minor cases, but the major excretory products are ammonia, urea and uric acid. Then, out of these 3 waste products, ammonia is considered to be the most toxic. That is why it is not being excreted by the land animals, because it is not being eliminated from the atmosphere easily. So that is why, as it is most toxic in nature, it is being eliminated mainly by the aquatic animals, because ammonia is highly soluble in water. So by nature's call, you see that one, we can see ammonia is a waste product in the case of particularly aquatic animals. So once ammonia is produced, it is being actually dissolved in the aquatic medium in water so as to form what is called the ammonium salts, making it as less toxic. So that is why it is being excreted by the aquatic animals. So ammonia is the most toxic form and requires large amount of water for its elimination. That is why it is being released by the aquatic animals. So that is number one. Then in contrast to this ammonia, uric acid is the least toxic one. Doesn't require much water for its elimination, and also it is a waste product which conserves water. So it can be removed with a minimum loss of water. That is why particularly the desert animals, the reptilian forms, the birds excrete uric acid with the least amount of water loss. So out of the three, just normally ammonia is the most toxic in nature and the uric acid is least toxic. It needs only minimum water loss. That is why it is being excreted by the animals living in the desert to conserve water. Particularly the birds and reptiles, they can excrete that is uric acid along with even the cockroaches, insects, and also the land snails. We'll come to this later. Now let's see the nature of the process. So the nature of the waste product elimination depends on number one, the nature of the habitat in which they are living. Number two, the availability of water. So if more water is available, ammonia is a waste product. If least amount of water is available, uric acid. Then urea also requires only least amount of water for its elimination. That is why land animals are excreting either uric acid or urea but not ammonia. Now what are the three different groups of processes that is actually based on the nature of the waste product is eliminated, and also the three groups of animals based on the nature of waste products they eliminate. Number one, ammonotelis. So it is a process of elimination of ammonia as the waste product. That is called ammonotelism. So the process of excreting ammonia as the nitrogenous waste product is called what is known as ammonotelism. And those animals excreting such waste products, namely the ammonia, are called ammonotelic animals. As I mentioned earlier, so ammonotelic animals are common, particularly in aquatic animals. See, though most of the animals are just actually excreting ammonia, still some of the aquatic animals excrete urea. Even if you are taking for example the mammalian forms like whales, the dolphins, the sea cows, the manatee, the dugong, so the walruses, they are all aquatic mammals. Though they are living in water, they never excrete ammonia. They excrete only urea. So general rule, animals living in water excrete ammonia. There are exceptions. Now what are the animals normally coming under the category of ammonotelic group? Number one, bony fishes. Many bony fishes. They are excreting ammonia mainly through the gill surface. Though they have actually the excretory system, but mostly they are eliminating actually even the salts also. They have chlorides and somehow to manage the excretion of what is called the chloride in the case of marine animals. So many bony fishes like mullet, the pomfrets, so they are all having mainly ammonia as a waste product. Some aquatic amphibians, not many, some aquatic, and similarly some aquatic insects. Those that are actually going down, living just diving inside, submerging into the water, not on the surface of the water. Those are divers actually diving into the water and then just living somewhere in the submerged water level, and they are excreting ammonia. So major waste product in the case of bony fishes, ammonia. A little bit also we have in the case of aquatic amphibians and aquatic insects, we have the waste product ammonia. Now the next one, ureotelism. Just like ammonotelism, the process of excreting or eliminating urea as a waste product is called what is known as ureotelism. And those animals excreting urea are called just actually ureotelic animals. I mentioned normally in the case of aquatic animals we have ammonia, but we have exceptions. See, in the case of bony fishes, we have either in fresh water or in marine water. They have ammonia as a waste product. But those cartilaginous fishes living in marine water, those cartilaginous fishes living in marine water, they excrete urea, a rare instance. You see that one. This is to maintain what is called actually the osmotic pressure. Even they store urea in their blood to maintain the osmotic pressure. So that is why the cartilaginous fishes, they store urea. That condition is called physiology uremic conditions. Physiology uremic conditions, uremia, blood uremia condition. Physiology uremia condition is actually different from the diseased uremia condition. So we do have accumulation of urea in the blood sometimes occasionally when the kidney failure occurs. That is called actually diseased uremic condition, build-up of urea. Physiologic urea means normally the accumulation of urea in the blood to maintain the normal osmotic pressure that is happening in the case of marine cartilaginous fishes. They store urea in their blood mainly for maintaining the osmotic pressure because they are living in a solution of higher concentration. There is a chance of entering more and more solutes into the body. So that in order to just prevent the entry of more salts into the body, they are maintaining their concentration of the blood by taking more and more urea, by retaining more and more urea. That condition is called uremia. So marine cartilaginous fishes actually an exception, but most commonly we have, that is the mammals including humans and also the amphibians, they excrete urea. So the adult amphibians, particularly the terrestrial amphibians and also the mammals, all mammals excrete urea. But in the case of tadpole or frog, though it is a form of larva, as it is living in water, it excretes only ammonia. So adult frog excretes urea, the larva, the tadpole larva excretes ammonia as a waste product. So you have to remember about the marine bony fishes or many bony fishes and also the marine cartilaginous fishes. So marine cartilaginous fishes eliminate urea, whereas the bony fishes excrete mainly ammonia. Now uricotalism. This is another process of elimination of another waste product, namely the uric acid. So the process of elimination or excretion of uric acid as a waste product is called uricotalism, and the animals are called uricotelic animals. So it is the least toxic. Normally those animals excrete uric acid, they excrete uric acid in the form of pellets or in the form of paste. The animals excrete pellet or paste with a minimum loss of water. So there is actually one of the adaptations for terrestrial habitat. So this kind of waste product elimination is seen particularly in the case of birds and reptiles. Those animals lay eggs. So the animals which lay cladoic eggs, the animals which lay cladoic eggs, the animals which lay what is called the shell eggs, such eggs are called, you know that one, cladoic eggs, they excrete uric acid. So only the reptiles and that is the birds in vertebrates excrete uric acid. But in the case of all insects, they excrete uric acid, including cockroach. In addition to that one, in the case of molluscan forms, the land snakes, they also excrete uric acid. So cockroaches, land snakes, reptiles and birds all excrete uric acid. Remember that one, insects and land snakes. These are all the questions came in the question paper. Remember that one. So elimination of urea and what is called uric acid, which are least toxic and less toxic in nature, is one of the adaptations, a terrestrial adaptation to conserve water, because uric acid requires only small amount of water for its elimination. Urea also requires only considerable amount of water for its excretion. And also urea can be stored in the blood for some time before it is being transported and excreted. Before it is being transported to the kidneys and it is being excreted. So that is one of the important aspects. It can be retained in the blood for some time without any toxic effect. So the excretion of urea and excretion of uric acid now considered as an adaptation to terrestrial habitat because they require only just much water loss. Now these are all some of the things related to what we have in the case of lower group of organisms. Let's proceed to the nature of excretory organs in the case of higher vertebrates, particularly human beings. Let's talk about human excretory system. As a general rule, in the case of vertebrates including human beings, we have the following components. One, a pair of kidneys, the major excretory organs, and they are also called renus. Number 2, a pair of ureters. They are nothing but the conveying tubes, just conveying the urine from the kidney towards the next what is called the storage organ, namely the urinary bladder, what is called vesica urinaria. So kidney, the place of filtration, ureter actually a conveyor tube, and then just conveying the fluid towards what is called the structure, a bladder, where it is being stored for some time before its elimination, and finally urethra, the passage through which urine is sent out through the urinary aperture. So these are the 4 components of any vertebrate system, the excretory system. So we are talking about human physiology, so we are talking about mainly the human excretory system. Now let's start with the kidney. Now this is the general one, the human excretory system. We have, you see, a pair of kidneys, then we have a pair of ureters, one urinary bladder and one passage which opens outside by means of urinary aperture. So the blood supply to the kidney is through mainly the renal artery. So the renal artery carries normally oxygenated blood but with more amount of urea in it. So if you are comparing the renal artery to renal vein, the one which contains more urea is nothing but renal artery. So renal artery contains more urea because it is the one which is carrying urea, the one which is formed where in the liver. So the liver is the place of formation of urea that is being transported to the heart, from where the heart sends out the blood through the ureter, and one of the branches from the ureter is nothing but, you know that one, that is the dorsal ureter, and that one gives rise to the renal artery. So the renal artery is the one which contains more urea, and once urea has been filtered, now the remaining actually blood has been taken away from the kidney by another blood vessel, namely the renal vein. So there is one question regarding the concentration of urea, which one contains more urea, either this renal artery or renal vein. So renal artery contains more urea than the renal vein, because renal artery carries the blood, it is an oxygenated blood, but we cannot say it is impure blood, though it carries urea. We are just actually classifying the blood based on the concentration of oxygen and carbon dioxide and not based on other content of the blood. So that is why I said actually the renal artery has more urea in it when compared to the renal vein, the one which is leaving from the kidney after filtration has been completed, after the waste products normally has been actually filtered. So we have a pair of kidneys and they are supplied with the blood by the renal artery and renal vein. Then a pair of ureters, the conveying tubes carrying the formed urine from the kidney towards the bladder, the reservoir where the urine is being stored for a while, and it is stretchable, and once it is being stretchable and some set of stimulus is carried to the nervous system, so one feels desires to urinate accordingly. So through this urethra. A simple urinary system, you have studied already something about this one in your earlier classes. Not much more, the same one. A little bit you have to know about the kidneys. Now during the embryonic development, the kidneys are developed from the mesoderm. So most of the organ systems have developed mainly from what is called the mesoderm. For example, the bones, the muscles, the blood. So almost all organs, including actually the excretory system, all being formed from the mesoderm. So kidneys are mesodermal in origin. Then what is the type of kidneys here? The kidneys are considered as metanephros type. Metanephros type. So what do you mean metanephros? During the embryonic development, normally the nephric cells are developed either towards the anterior or towards the posterior or in between. So according to the mode of origin, suppose you are considering the embryo, it is a longer one. So there are 3 regions the excretory organs are developed. So in the case of animals, so you see that one, the nephric cells or the kidneys are developed towards the anterior end. And such kidneys which are developed towards the anterior end are called pronephric type. So this is no animals having pronephric type at present, any living group. Except in the case of cyclostomes, they have archinephric. That is actually the ancestral kidney. In the case of cyclostomes, one group what is called the animals without jaws. There you have one animal by name Mixin. It has archinephric type of kidney. Normally, no living members have the pronephros kidney, the first formed kidney anterior. Then we have the mesonephros kidney just more or less from the middle region of the embryo. You have the mesonephros kidney in the case of fishes and amphibians. Fishes and amphibians have mesonephros. Now here in our case or in the case of reptiles, birds and mammals, the kidneys are developed towards the posterior end. Such a kidney is called metanephros. So, fishes and amphibians have mesonephros. Then reptiles, birds and mammals have metanephric kidney. This is based on the origin, the place of origin inside the embryo of the developing individual. So anyway, the kidney just in the case of human beings is metanephros. What about the nature, the shape? Normally the color, reddish brown. You know that one. Just more or less the shape being shaped one. Where is it located? It is normally located just between the last thoracic vertebra. You see that one in the thorax we have 12 vertebrae. The last thoracic vertebra and the third lumbar vertebra. It is being located between the last thoracic vertebra and the third lumbar vertebra, and then attached to the inner dorsal body wall. It is normally attached to the dorsal body wall, one on either side of the backbone on the vertebral column. And they have their own measurement. So the length is about 10 to 12 centimeter. If we are taking about the width, it is about 5 to 7 centimeter, and the thickness is about 2 to 3 centimeter. And having a weight that is in the adult kidney about 120 to 170 grams. That is a total weight. Range is there. It is not uniform. Even in the case of male, it is somewhat larger than that of what is called the female. And again, the two kidneys are not placed at the same, just actually see in the case of this, when you compare this one, if you compare the location of the right and left kidney. Now this is the right kidney and that is the left one. The right kidney is slightly lower in a position than the left one. The reason for that one here is the organ, namely the liver, is localized. So the liver is present on the right side. It exerts a force on the right, just acting on the right kidney, so that the right kidney is slightly lower in position than the left one. That is about the location. So you see the kidneys are more or less being shaped organs. And the entire surface of the kidney actually always covered with adipose tissue to keep the kidney in more or less warm condition. That is why we have a fatty tissue above the kidney. It's not a covering. Lying over actually the kidney, we have the fatty tissue, what is called adipose tissue, to maintain an optimum temperature for the functioning of the kidney. Now, on the concave side of the kidneys, we see the kidneys are being shaped. On the concave side of the kidney, there is a depression, a notch-like structure. This depression is called hilum or hilus. In some books it is being given as hilus, hilum or hilus. So at this point only, you see the renal artery, the nerves enter into the kidney, and the renal vein and the ureter exit from the kidney. So it is a place of exit and entry for the veins, nerves as well as what is called the ureter. Now, if you are making a section, you can see the hilum is normally entering into a broad funnel shaped structure. That means inner to the hilum there is a broad funnel shaped structure, a cavity where first urine is collected from, and only the urine is discharged into the ureter. And that one, the funnel shaped cavity, the larger cavity where the urine is collected after its formation, is called as renal pelvis. So the renal pelvis has a number of projections towards the interior, that is towards what is called the medullary region, what are called the calyces. The projections formed by the renal pelvis towards the interior, that is towards the medullary region, are called as calyces. Now let's see in that picture later. Now what about the internal organization? So if you are taking that one, just the three main structures you have in the kidney normally. The entire kidney is being actually covered by means of a fibrous connective tissue, forming a thick capsule. And overlying it only we have what is called the adipose tissue, the one which keeps a warm nature, warm condition of the kidney for keeping its function normal. So each kidney is enclosed by a tough fibrous connective tissue, and that one together form what is called the renal capsule. This is number one. And if you are making a vertical section, you could see two different zones. One is the outer region, another is the inner region. The outer zone is called what is known as the cortex, and the inner one is called as the medulla. So wherever you go, we are always using the just outer region cortex, the inner region is medulla. So also here in the kidney, we have an outer cortex and inner medulla. Now if we are taking the medullary tissues, the medullary tissues are divided or arranged in the form of conical masses, many conical masses. They are not found as a compact mass. They are arranged in the form of conical structures or conical masses, and these conical masses are called medullary pyramids. These masses are called medullary pyramids, and they are projecting into what is called the calyces. The medullary pyramids are more or less conical in shape. They are projecting into the funnel-shaped cavity, what is called as the calyces. You'll see in the picture. So we have outer cortex and inner medulla. The medullary tissues are arranged in the form of cone-shaped masses, what are called the medullary regions, or simply what is called the medullary pyramids, because they are all more or less cone-shaped or triangular, pyramid-like, and they project into the calyces. Now you see that one. So this is the outermost capsule, the fibrous capsule. Then we have, this is the outer cortex region. This is outer cortex region, and this is the medullary region. The medullary tissues are arranged in the form of, we see that one, conical masses. These conical masses are called the medullary pyramids. They are normally projecting into just actually some cavities, what I mentioned, simply the calyces. Now this is a cavity projecting into the cavity, and such cavities are called calyces. And again we can see the renal pelvis projects into the medulla in the form of these funnel-shaped cavities, into which only the medullary pyramids are fitting. So these calyces are differentiated into smaller calyces and larger calyces. The smaller ones are called the minor calyces, the larger ones are called major calyces. I'll tell you more about this one. Anyway, the medullary tissues are arranged in the form of cone-shaped medullary pyramids. They are projecting into the calyces. The calyces are nothing but the projections of the renal pelvis. Now we see that one, this is the cavity, the renal pelvis. And here is the notch, what is called the hydrus, and entering for the renal artery, leaving for the renal vein, and also leaving for the the ureter. So that is the exit point and the entry point for different structures. Now, the medullary tissues also project into the outer cortex in the form of radiating rays. They are called medullary rays. So, into the outer cortex, simply, normally, the medullary tissues are projecting into the cortex in the form of medullary rays. Similarly, normally if we are comparing the color, the outer cortex is normally paler in color, the inner one is, outer cortex is red in color, the inner one is paler in color. Now the cortical tissues are extending in between the pyramids, you see, in the form of columns. They are called renal columns. These renal columns are called renal columns of Bertini. So, the medullary tissues are projecting to the cortex in the form of medullary pyramids. The cortical tissues are extending in between the renal pyramids in the form of long columns. These columns are called renal columns of Bertini. See, this is the capsule, what I mentioned earlier, a fibrous connective tissue. So, you see that one, actually, the pelvis projects into the medulla in the form of calyces. So, these are all what are called the calyces. The yellow colored ones are called calyces. And there are some minor calyces, nearly about 8 to 20 in a human kidney. And many minor calyces are joined together to form major calyces. It may be just actually 2 to 3 only. So here one such major calyx is nothing but this one. So the number of major calyces is less when compared to the number of minor calyces. I mentioned earlier what I mean by medullary rays. Extensions of pyramids, that means the medullary tissues are extending into the cortex in the form of medullary rays. And similarly, the cortex or the cortical tissues extend in between the medullary pyramids in the form of columns. And what is shown in the diagram, just between the cone-shaped pyramids, we have columns of cortex extending into it, and they are called columns of Bertini, or simply called as columns of Bertini, or also called renal columns of Bertini, as they are found in kidney. Now, We have the renal pyramids. The tips of the renal pyramids are called papillae. Now these are all the tips. These structures are called renal papillae, and normally the various nephrons open only at the papillae into what is called the pelvis. So the tip of the cone-shaped structure is called renal papillae. And normally these renal papillae are pointed towards what is called the renal pelvis, as you have seen in the picture. A very simple structure, you can understand very easily about. And I mentioned already, so normally the renal pyramids are actually projecting it. Actually the tip of the renal pyramids are called the renal papillae. And the renal papillae are surrounded by many funnel-shaped structures. They are called as the minor calyces. The number ranges from 8 to 20. And many minor calyces are joined together to form still larger calyces. They are called the major calyces. The number is only 2 to 3, not many. We have only 2 to 3, just 2 or 3 major calyces and a number of minor calyces. And normally the calyces converge, particularly the major calyces, converge to form an enlarged cavity. That cavity is called as what is known as the renal pelvis. It's also called renal sinus, where the urine is normally collected from where it is normally carried away through the ureter. So the renal pelvis narrows to form the passage, what is called the ureter, which carries the urine towards the urinary bladder. Now, this is only just actually with reference to the organization of various components of a kidney. And what is the structural and functional unit of the kidney? It is none other than a structure what is called nephron. So the nephrons are considered as a structural and functional unit of the kidney. We can say the basic structural and functional unit of the kidney. This is number one. Then how many nephrons being formed actually together in a kidney? So each kidney contains about 1 million uriniferous tubules or nephron. But a person needs only 50% of such nephrons for his survival or for her survival. So at least just 450,000, just nearly 500,000. So for survival, a man needs nearly about 500,000, that is 450,000 nephron should remain functional. So that's why normally one healthy kidney is enough to lead a normal life. Even within the kidney, if 50% of the nephrons are working, then the person can survive without any problem. So 1 million nephrons, out of this 1 million nephrons, even in a single kidney, 50% of nephrons should be actually functional. That is normally enough for a person to lead a normal life. Okay, now what are the components of nephron? Basically, if you are taking a nephron, it is being formed of 2 components. One is the filtering body, namely the Malpighian, that is body or renal corpus. It is also called as renal corpus. So there are 2 components. One, Malpighian body or renal corpus. It is a place of filtration. Another component, what is called the renal tubule, meant for the reabsorption and also for conveying the filtrate gradually to form urine towards the pelvis region. So each nephron is formed of a Malpighian body, the place of filtration, and a renal tubule for conveying the filtrate towards the pelvis. And before that, actually the various events are happening, particularly the reabsorption of useful materials. Now let's take about the Malpighian body. What do you mean by a Malpighian body? So it's also called as renal corpuscle. Once again, it is being formed of 2 components. One, the glomerulus, a tuft of capillaries. Say an example of 50 capillaries. And number 2, a cup-shaped structure, a 2-walled structure, namely the Bowman's capsule, and which provides a place for the glomerulus. So the glomerulus and Bowman's capsule together called as what is known as a Malpighian body or renal corpuscle. Now what is glomerulus? I mentioned it is a tuft of blood capillaries. Say an example of nearly 50 capillaries are held together to form a ball-like structure. So a tuft of blood capillaries, and that is normally formed with the repeated branching of afferent artery, a branch of renal artery. So the renal artery once enters in the kidney divides into many afferent artery, The afferent arteriole, each one divides to form a fine network of capillaries. Nearly say an example of 50 capillaries. All the capillaries are held together to form a ball-like structure. And that tuft of ball-like structure capillaries is called glomerulus. So, see that one, the afferent arteriole just carries blood towards the glomerulus. From the glomerulus, another arteriole is carrying away the blood from that one. So, the artery that enters in the glomerulus is called afferent arteriole. Afferent arteriole. The one which is leaving from the glomerulus, carrying the blood away from the glomerulus is called efferent arteriole. So, just one letter difference. One letter difference. So, efferent and this one afferent. So, even any branch, even the case of nervous system, the sensory neuron is otherwise called afferent neuron. Then the motor neuron is otherwise called efferent neuron. The one which is moving towards an organ is called afferent. The one which is leaving from an organ is called efferent. So here, as it is moving towards glomerulus, is called afferent arteriole, and that only forms the glomerulus. Once again, all the capillaries join together to form another blood vessel, and that one is called efferent arteriole. That is the one leaving from the glomerulus, taking blood away from the glomerulus. Now Bowman's capsule. So it is actually, if you are taking just, it is a double-walled bag-like structure. This is the Bowman's capsule. So here we have the glomerulus. Now this is the entering blood vessel, and this is the leaving, and this is the glomerulus, and this is the leaving blood vessel. This is afferent arteriole, and that one is efferent arteriole. Now you see here the Bowman's capsule is a double-walled structure. So the Bowman's capsule is more or less a cup-shaped structure, a double-walled structure, and between the two walls we have what is called the capsular cavity. So this is outer wall, this is inner wall, and this is the capsular cavity. We will have a beautiful picture later. Now here this is a simple one. So the renal tubule, normally this is actually the starting point. So though we have up to this level, which is called as the Norwegian body, now the starting point for the renal tubule is nothing but the Bowman's capsule. So the renal tubule begins with a double-walled bag-like structure or a cup-like structure, what is called the Bowman's capsule. So it is a cup-shaped structure. This is because of the encroachment of the glomerulus, it attains the cup-shaped structure. So the outer and inner layers of the Bowman's capsule I mentioned. Now this is the outer layer. This outer layer is called the parietal layer. The inner layer is called the visceral layer. So this is outer and this is inner. The outer layer is called the parietal layer. The inner layer is called the visceral layer, in between which we have a capsular cavity where only the filtrate which is formed is collected. So, and what about the nature of these two layers? The outer layer is actually formed of single layer of squamous epithelium. Single layer of squamous epithelium. Normally, you can find the squamous epithelium wherever you have the filtration occurs, wherever you have the diffusion of gases occurs, wherever you have the friction occurs. For example, we have in the mouth cavity, we have the squamous epithelium. Then in the lungs, we have the squamous epithelium in the alveoli. And here also we have the place of filtration. That's why I mentioned the place of filtration, the place of friction, and also the place of exchange of gases. We have squamous epithelium. This is a common character. So the buccal cavity, it is exposed to friction because while we are chewing, the food friction has been made. So anyway, the place of squamous epithelium, you can say easily the place of friction, the place of exchange of gases, and the place of filtration. So the outer parietal layer is composed of simple squamous epithelium. Simple squamous epithelium, this is the one. So what about the inner visceral layer? So the inner visceral layer is very specific. That is the one which surrounds what is called the blood capillaries of the glomerulus. And this layer consists of specialized cells, and that one is taking part in the filtration process. One of the units of filtration membrane, what are called the podocytes. So the podocytes are found in the Bowman's capsule, particularly in the visceral layer of the Bowman's capsule. So outer parietal layer, inner visceral layer consisting of the podocytes. Outer layer is formed of squamous epithelium, the inner visceral layer is formed of podocytes. Now what about the blood capillaries? As a general rule, you know that the blood capillaries are formed of single layer of cells. What we can say, single layer of endothelial cells. So the walls of the glomerular capillaries are lined with or made up of single layer of endothelial cells. So between the visceral layer and what is called the endothelial cells, another membrane is formed. What is called the basement membrane. So the podocytes are the visceral layer, then we have the endothelial cells of the blood capillaries, and then the basement membrane lying between the podocytes and endothelial cells. These three units together form the filtration membrane or the filtration unit. So there is a basement membrane between the endothelial cells of the glomerular capillaries and the podocytes of Bowman's capsule. So these three components, namely the visceral layer formed of what is called the podocytes, then the endothelial cells of the capillaries, and the middle membrane between these two, what is called the basement membrane, together constitute the filtration membrane, because filtration happens to occur mainly through these three layers: endothelial cells of blood capillaries, basement membrane, and podocytes of visceral layer of Bowman's capsule. We will see in detail about the structure of filtration membrane later. Now, the next one, suppose you are taking the nephron. The cavity of the Bowman's capsule opens into the first part of the highly coiled tubule, what is called proximal convoluted tubule, or simply the PCT. It is a place of absorption for absorption of various materials. So it is a highly coiled tubule, the first part just following the Bowman's capsule, hence the name proximal convoluted tubule. Now what is the nature of the cells of this PCT? Now it is normally lined with normal epithelial cells, and these cells have brush border. So where you come across brush border in the nephrons, particularly in the first part of the renal tubule, namely the proximal convoluted tubule, this is because the cells have many what is called the projections, the microvilli. Now this is the microvilli. They're just minute hair-like projections of each and every cell, and these are all called microvilli, which give brush border appearance to increase the surface area of reabsorption of materials from the filtering. That's about the nature. Now, this part. So the PCT is surrounded by a network of blood capillaries, which are formed by the repeated branching of the efferent artery. They constitute peritubular capillaries. So what are peritubular capillaries? After leaving from the glomerulus, the efferent arteriole forms a second network of capillaries all around, that is the renal tubule, and they are together called peritubular capillaries. And normally, because of this peritubular capillaries helping the PCT just actually in the absorption, namely the reabsorption of material. So we can say PCT is a seat of reabsorption. Proximal convoluted tubule is a seat of reabsorption, as it is being surrounded by a network of capillaries called peritubular capillaries. Now, posteriorly, the proximal convoluted tubule leads into a loop-like structure proposed by Henle, and that is called Henle's loop. A hairpin shaped Henle's loop is present just at the posterior end of the proximal convoluted tubule. And if you are taking actually the Henle's loop, each loop has a descending limb, a hairpin-like structure only, just like this, hairpin-like structure. Each loop has a descending limb and an ascending limb. Normally the descending limb is thin walled. The first part of the actually what is called the descending limb is more or less similar to the structure of the proximal convoluted tubule. Now the ascending limb has thick wall because it is being formed of cuboidal epithelial cells. The ascending limb is lined with the cuboidal epithelial cells, that's why it is being thick. Now the descending limb is thin wall, I mentioned, lined by, you see that one as in the case of Bowman's capsule, squamous epithelium. It is very thin plate line. Whereas ascending limb is thick wall, this is because of the presence of cuboidal epithelial cells. Now what is the main difference between this PCT and DCT? So normally the proximal convoluted tubule is Just you see that one, permeable to water and impermeable to ions. So it allows the entry of water from the filtrate into the blood. That is called permeability. So from the filtrate, water can enter into the blood, and that is called the permeability. So the descending limb is normally more permeable to water and impermeable to ions like sodium, etc. And if you are taking this ascending limb, the ascending limb is normally permeable just for ions but impermeable to water. That is the opposite one. So I mentioned already this thick wall and formed by, I mentioned, the cuboid epithelium, which is the main difference. Here it is squamous epithelium, here cuboid epithelium, and this part, the descending limb is permeable to water and impermeable to ions, and the ascending limb is normally permeable to ions and impermeable to water. That's the main difference you can make it between the two limbs. Now, the ascending limb is continued as another highly coiled tubule, the posterior part, hence called distal convoluted tubule, DCT. So the arrangement of what is called the ascending and descending is responsible for maintaining osmolarity of the blood, osmolarity of the filtrate. How far the absorption takes place, mainly the reabsorption. How is the filtrate is normally just decreased in its what is called dilution and increase in concentration. That is because of blood vessels surrounding what is called the peritubular capillaries. We have one process, one structure of this capillaries named vasa recta, will come as later in the week. So the descending and ascending limb just a difference in permeability process. So the descending limb is more permeable to water, actually permeable to ions, and the ascending limb is more permeable to ions and impermeable to water. So this property, the opposite property, they are working in an opposite manner. So that is why it is responsible or helpful for just keeping the urine more or less concentrated while it is reaching just the last part of the nephron. This is because of the effect of these two. Even if you are taking the concentration, you can have at the posterior end of the loop, that is at the terminal end of the loop, we have high osmolarity. So the molarity is increasing, osmolarity is increasing from proximal to what is called proximal tubule to the tip of the loop, and then once again it is normally decreasing because of the dilution of the filtrate and as the solutes have been reabsorbed, and finally once again reabsorption of water makes it again concentrated. We'll see the mechanism once again afterwards. So we have the last part of the nephron, what is called actually the collecting duct. So the distal convoluted tubules of many nephrons open into still larger duct, what is called the collecting duct or CD. It is being present in the cortex and medulla like that. We have, accordingly we can have, that is present in the outer medulla, the outer cortex, like that we can have. So let us see later. So anyway, many nephrons open into a large tube called the collecting duct, which then unites to form still larger duct, what is called duct of Bellini. This one opens at the tip of the renal papillae into the renal pelvis. So it opens into the renal pelvis through the medullary pyramids in the calyces. So in the calyces we have actually projection of the medullary pyramids, and they have the renal papillae. There you have the openings. Through these openings, normally the duct of Bellini discharges the urine which is formed into the renal pelvis. Now regarding the location, whether all these structures being found in the cortex or in the medulla, so for this one we have to know. So if we are taking the structures starting from what is called the Malpighian body, then we have the proximal convoluted tubule and distal convoluted tubule. Just all these structures are normally found in the cortex region. Whereas a loop of Henle is found a little bit only in the cortex and mostly found in or dips into the medulla. So that is a location. So the Malpighian corpuscle, PCT and DCT of the nephron are situated in the cortex region of the kidney. Whereas the loop of Henle just dips into the medulla, only a little bit only in the cortic region. Its length is mostly dipped, the loop is mostly dipped into the medullary region. That's about the location of the different parts of the nephron. Now here is the structure. So this is the arteriole from the renal artery, what is called afferent arteriole. And here we form the glomerulus, a network of capillaries formed by the repeated branching of the arteriole coming from the renal artery, what we can say, the afferent arteriole. Then this is the one which is leaving from the glomerulus, what we call this one as efferent arteriole. Now which one divides and subdivides to form minor branches just all around surrounding the entire renal tubule, and that is called the peritubular capillaries. So these are all the red and blue or the peritubular capillaries. Okay, so peritubular capillaries. So after supplying blood once again all united to form what is called the branch of renal vein which opens into the renal vein. Then so this part, the highly coiled tubule, the number one is the proximal convoluted tubule, or simply proximal tubule. As it is highly coiled, it is called convoluted tubule. And now this is a hairpin-like structure, what we have the hairless loop, and this part is the descending limb and that part is ascending limb. So the descending limb is formed of squamous epithelium, the ascending limb is formed of actually the cuboid epithelium. Now this ascending limb continued as the distal convoluted tubule, which opens into a large duct, what is called just the collecting duct, and many such collecting ducts join together to form the duct of Bellini. So into this collecting duct a number of nephrons open, because we have millions of nephrons all bundled together. We cannot separate it easily. Because of that only we have received some compound structure formation also. So anyway, this is the arrangement of the nephron, very similar in organization and responsible for the separation of the waste products. And this is one more picture. I mentioned we have a number of capillaries all around what is called the proximal convoluted tubule. Some of the capillaries are more or less what is called straight, parallel, and then just actually look like parallel, straight, and look like just in parallel with what is called the handless loop. And these capillaries, the red colored one, more or less look like U-shaped structures are called vasa recta. So for each nephron we have actually such a vasa recta, a parallel, a straight. So there is a recta means in Latin word referring to straight. So a parallel, just more or less parallel, a straight tube, a loop-like structure, very thin-walled blood vessels in parallel with the loop of Henle, they are called vasa recta. The same picture, but here I am representing the vasa recta. So we have the glomerulus, what is called the capillary bed, a network of blood capillaries. Now this is the afferent arteriole, and we have the cup-shaped Bowman's capsule, and this is the afferent arteriole, the one which is leaving. The first part of the tubule, which is highly coiled, arising from the Bowman's capsule, is called proximal convoluted tubule, which is leading into what is called the handless loop. You see that one, this is the borderline representing the cortex and medulla. You can see the Bowman's capsule, glomerulus, the PCT, DCT all located in the cortex, and this one, that is a loop-like structure, is located in the medullary region. So this is the descending limb of Henle in parallel with actually what is called, that is the vasa recta, and this is another one, the ascending limb, which is also parallel with the vasa recta, and normally you see that one is going down and that is going up like that. So this is a collecting duct, and the one which is leading towards the renal pelvis of the kidney, and this is the place where the urine is collected and finally it is being carried away by the ureter. Now we have two different types of nephrons. One is called the cortical nephrons, another one juxtamedullary nephrons. So the most common type of nephrons are called the cortical nephrons. That is number one in majority of the nephrons. And this one actually it is found only in some nephrons, not found in all nephrons. So the same kidney, some of the nephrons are cortical nephrons, some of the nephrons are juxtaglomerular nephrons. So what is the main difference? Now, in the case of cortical nephrons, if you take the length of the handless loop, they have relatively too short loop of hand, too short. But here they have very long loop of hand. That permits actually, that is increases the filtration rate, increases the perfusion rate, that is reabsorption rate. So that we have the glomerular filtration also form at a faster rate, at a maximum. the glomerular filtration rate is also higher. Then, in the case of these cortical nephrons, the loop of Henle's loop is mostly found in the cortex and a little bit only extended in the medulla. But in the case of juxtamedullary nephrons, they are actually dips or runs deep into the medulla. So, they runs deep into the medulla. They are present mostly in the cortex, only a little bit only found in the cortex. I will show the picture. Now you see on the left side, the cortical nephron. Now this is the Henle's loop. This is the Henle's loop, very short Henle's loop, and then just actually this is the Bowman's capsule. We have the PCT, and then what is called the posterior segment of the PCT, and this is the descending limb, and this one is ascending. Very just a short loop of Henle, and that way it is found. You see that one in the cortex region. So this is actually the cortex, and this is the medulla. So we have outer stripe, and we least bother about that one. This is very short indeed, just found most in the cortex, a little bit only extending into the medulla. And this is what is called, you have just ascending limb, thick walled ascending limb, and this one is actually present outer medullary, just what is called collecting duct. IMCD, inner medullary, just collecting duct. So we have medulla also divided outer medulla and inner medulla according to the position wise we can say. Now in comparison to this one cortical nephron, you see that one, the Henle's loop. So the Henle's loop is very long, and it is not only found in the cortex but also it dips into the medullary region, so that it exhibits 15% large perfusion. So large glomerular filtrate is produced because of the increased length. So that's why it's called as actually the medullary nephron, and this is what is called cortical nephron. Again, the medullary nephrons are also called juxtaglomerular nephron. That is a comparison between these two. I have given already the comparison in the form table column. See the picture also, you can get an idea. So anyway, now the time has just reached. I am just concluding my lecture. So if you have any question, just post your question. I am ready to answer it. So thank you. The class is completed. We'll meet once again.